training course. Port Facility Security Officer. Prepared and conducted by Maritime Bureau of Africa, MBA. For certification and tuition inquiries, please contact MBA by email, director@mbaclass.co.za, or phone +277 2567 0010. Chapter 6. Security Management and Administration. 6.1. Maintaining security of the port. Physical security of the port. At each security level, the PSP plan should identify the location of restricted areas, key points, vulnerable areas and critical functions in or associated with the port, and the physical protection and access control procedures and access documents required to reduce the level of risk. Areas designated as restricted areas in the PSP should be delineated as such with appropriate warning signs, markings, and as appropriate to the security level enforce barriers and access control points. Access control procedures should be established for restricted areas of the port for any person, vehicle, vessel, cargo, material, equipment and stores inbound or outbound, whether from adjacent property, waterway or from outside the port. Access control procedure must include the following. 1. Summarize the security measures for access control required by regulation. 2. Summarize the security measures required for secure areas. 3. Note the varying requirements for access control at different MARSEC levels. 4. Describe requirements for facilitating mariner shore leave, providing visitor access, and handling the issue of detained crew members. 5. Note the access control issues unique to rail operations. 6. Describe the security measures required for newly hired employees. 7. Describe the security measures required for restricted areas. 8. Describe the security measures required for delivery of stores and bunkers. The PFSP should define the procedures for the issuance, verification and return of access documents, at no cost to the workers. The details of verification to be made regarding those persons, required to be provided with or issued, access documents. The appropriate authorized access control requirements for each restricted area and level of access. The reporting of lost, missing or stolen documents. Dealing with the misuse of access documents. These procedures should also cover temporary personnel, contractors and visitors at each security level. The Seafarer's Identification Document, issued in accordance with the Seafarer's Identity Documents Convention, revised, 2003, number 185. Would meet all requirements of this PFSP for the purposes of identification and access. The security requirements must be compliant with national and international customs and export regulations. 6.2. Ship and port interfacing, pre-arrival notification procedure. South African Marine Notice number 28 of 2016. The Merchant Shipping, Maritime Security, Regulations, 2004. To masters and operators of internationally trading ships, bound for South African port, their agents, South African Association of Ship Operators and Agents, Harbour Masters, Cape Town Radio, the Maritime Rescue Coordination Centre, MRCC, and other interested parties. Summary. This marine notice gives guidance to the industry on the application of the Merchant Shipping, Maritime Security, Regulations, 2004, and the International Ship and Port Facility Security, ISPS, Code. 1. South Africa has implemented the maritime security requirements contained in Chapter 11-2 of the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, 1974, and the International Ship and Port Facility Security, ISPS, Code through the Merchant Shipping, Maritime Security, Regulations, 2004. These regulations apply to South Africa's 8 major ports, namely Saldanha Bay, Cape Town, Mossel Bay, Port Elizabeth, Ngqura, East London, Durban, and Richards Bay. They also apply to passenger ships, cargo ships of 500 or more gross tonnage and mobile offshore drilling units, MODUs, on international voyages. However, they do not apply to fishing vessels, vessels used solely for sport or recreation, government ships engaged solely on non-commercial voyages, coasting ships, and ships transiting South Africa's territorial waters. Certification of South African ships. 2. The South African Maritime Safety Authority, SAMSA, is responsible for approving ship security plans for South African ships, for verifying compliance with plans, and for issuing the International Ship Security Certificate, ISSC, and Continuous Synopsis Record, CSR. Security level in South African territorial waters. 3. Security Level 1 applies in South Africa's territorial waters. Any change of security level or its area of application will be notified by marine notice, navigational warning and notices to mariners. Port Security. 4. Security Level 1 is the default security level applying to South Africa's 8 major ports, and the port facilities in these ports. Any change of security level will be declared by the Director General, Transport, who is required to give proper notice of the declaration. 5. In accordance with Regulation 1129 of the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, 1974, and paragraph B/4.39 of the ISPS Code, the Director General, Transporters under the Merchant Shipping, Maritime Security, Regulations, 2004, determined the requirements for pre-arrival and pre-entry information. The full official text of the determination is published by Government Notice No. 1412 in Government Gazette No. 27048 of 10 December 2004. 6. Pre-arrival information is required from foreign passenger ships, cargo ships of 500 or more gross tonnage and mobile offshore drilling units, MODUs, on international voyages bound for South African ports, including ships calling out of port limits, OPL, at a South African port for the transfer of stores, crew, landing and crew member, offshore bunkering, and any interaction between shore and ship, etc. 7. These requirements do not apply to fishing vessels, vessels used solely for sport or recreation, government ships engaged solely on non-commercial voyages, coasting ships, not departing South African waters and maintaining ISPS status quo, and ships transiting South Africa's territorial waters. 8. Reports are not required from ships making voyages between South African ports, that is, coasting. If a ship makes a voyage to a port in another country, for example Maputo, Mozambique or Walvis Bay, Namibia, a pre-arrival/pre-entry information report must be made before any subsequent call at a South African port. Also, when a ship is coasting between South African ports and interfaces with another ship between ports, the master must transmit a pre-arrival/pre-entry information report as soon as possible, but at least 5 hours before the ship's ETA. 9. The format and content of the pre-arrival/pre-entry information report is given in attached Excel document, Annex A. Masters are advised to exercise care when drafting reports. It should be noted that in the format of the report, field B is the time of making the report and field J is the ETA at the first port of call. There should be at least a 96 hours difference in the times. Point 1. Any vessel that will arrive at the outer port limits of the South African port 12 hours later than its ETA on a pre-arrival notification must submit an amendment to its pre-arrival notification. Point 2. Any vessel that has not arrived at the outer port limits of the first South African port indicated on the pre-arrival notification within 108 hours, 4.5 days, of submitting the PAN and has not submitted an amendment, will be required to resubmit a new PAN. 10. The report must be made at least 96 hours before the ship's expected time of arrival, ETA, at the first South African port. If the ship is arriving from a foreign port, where the voyage time between ports is less than 96 hours, the master must ensure that the pre-arrival/pre-entry information is sent, in compliance with the 96-hour requirement and amended when the ship clears the last foreign port. 11. An amended report must be made if Point 1. The ETA date for the ship changes. However, a change in time on the same day need not be reported, or Point 2. There has been a ship-to-ship or ship-port interface after the original report was made, or example. A. Initial PAN, Field P1 Hazira, India, 09122015. 1. NIL, Y. B. Updated PAN, Field P1, on departure from Maputo, Mozambique, 25,122,015. 1. NIL, Y. Point 3. Any other information in the original report changes, excluding those noted in 11.1 and 11.2. 12. The Maritime Rescue Coordination Center, MRCC, in Cape Town is the first point of contact for pre-arrival pre-entry information. The pre-arrival/pre-entry information report must be in English and in writing, and is to be transmitted to the MRCC Cape Town, the first point of contact. The MRCC will only accept reports directly from the ship. No reports by voice communication will be accepted. The role of the MRCC is to scrutinize reports for correctness and completeness. 13. The MRCC does not security clear ships. Its function is to check pre-arrival/pre-entry information reports to ensure relevance and completeness. If MRCC has any queries regarding the ship's report, it will communicate with the ship via email. The MRCC forwards reports to the Department of Transport's Maritime Security Coordination Center, MSCC, in Pretoria, which is responsible for informing port security officers, PSO, about ship's security clearance status. Ship's agents are not allowed to contact MSCC directly. They should obtain security clearance information from the relevant PSO. 14. The preferred means of ship-to-shore communication for pre-arrival pre-entry information reports must be by email and sent as an attachment, Excel format, to the MRCC, Cape Town. The official email address is pan@samsa.org.za. The email's subject line to indicate the vessel's name. This change in PAN communication process comes into effect as of the 1st of August 2016. 15. Pre-arrival pre-entry information required by this notice for maritime security purposes is similar to port entry information required by the Transnet National Ports Authority, TNPA, for berth planning purposes. However, the format and use of this information differs considerably. Masters and agents are advised to ensure that information for the MRCC is not confused with that required by the TNPA. 16. Masters are cautioned that failure to timeously transmit complete and correctly formatted pre-arrival pre-entry information may result in delays and, in appropriate cases, denial of port entry. Ships whose masters refuse to give pre-arrival pre-entry information will be denied port entry. 17. The following table provides information about port security officers, PSOs, at the 8 major ports. The contact number in bold print in the table is the 24-hour contact number for the PSO. Port's name, telephone, fax, mobile phone. Information regarding port facility security officers, PFSOs, can be obtained from the relevant PSO, the port facility operator or the local ship's agent. 18. The MRCC is also the contact point for ships seeking information on maritime security within South Africa's territorial waters. A ship under threat in the territorial waters can communicate with the MRCC, who will forward the alert to the appropriate authorities. The MRCC's duty officer can be contacted as follows. In the event a vessel has email or telephone communication problems, Cape Town Radio can be contacted by radio. 19. A ship under threat at a South African port can communicate with the local VTS center, port control, the PSO, PFSO or the MRCC. 20. A ship's security alert signal, SAS, from a foreign flagged ship will go to the ship owner or flag state and will only be received by the MRCC if the flag state or owner forwards the alert to the MRCC. SafeROP. 21. In the interests of safety, all ships are encouraged to participate in the South African Ship Reporting System, SafeROP. This system assists in search and rescue by providing up-to-date information on shipping in the event of a maritime casualty. It is modeled on IMO Resolution A.85120 regarding general principles for ship reporting requirements. It makes use of movement reports submitted to Cape Town Radio by ships within the South African search and rescue region. Participation in the system is voluntary. Information regarding SafeROP may be found in the Admiralty list of radio signals. Anchoring outside port limits. 22. Masters, owners and operators are reminded that it is an offense in terms of the Marine Traffic Act, 1981, to anchor or stop a ship, for repairs or otherwise, in South Africa's territorial or internal waters outside port limits without permission from SAMSA. Permission to anchor or stop may be obtained by submitting to the MRCC a pre-arrival information report together with a request to anchor or stop. The MRCC will forward the request to the local SAMSA principal officer for a decision. 23. A ship that has to anchor or stop in an emergency must inform SAMSA as soon as possible, but at least within 1 hour after anchoring or stopping. Masters are reminded that SAMSA has the authority, even in an emergency, to set conditions for anchoring or stopping. 6.3. The Declaration of Security, DOS. A Declaration of Security, DOS, is a written agreement between a port facility and a ship, visiting that facility on their respective security responsibilities during the visit. Subsection 2.7. The requirement for a port facility to initiate, complete and retain a DOS is determined by the designated authority and includes the conditions under which ships and port facilities may request a DOS. The maritime security measures contain a model form for a declaration of security between a port facility and a ship. Refer to Appendix 3.1, Declaration of Security Form, as well as including information on the identity of the port facility and ship. The form specifies the type of activity to be covered, its duration and the security level applying to the particular ship port interface. If a ship is operating at a higher security level than the port facility, the ship port interface should take place at its higher security level. Normally, the DOS is completed by the PFSO. However, if the designated authority determines otherwise, it may be handled by another person, responsible for shoreside security, on behalf of the port facility. When completed, it must be signed and dated both by the PFSO or alternate designated by the designated authority and by the ship's master or ship security officer. Unless there are exceptional circumstances, the DOS only takes effect after it has been signed by both parties in a language common to both parties. When a ship initiates a DOS, the request shall be acknowledged by the port facility. However, the port facility does not have to comply with the request. When a port facility initiates a DOS, the request shall be acknowledged by the ship's master or SSO. In this instance, the ship must comply with the request. The conditions under which a DOS may be requested are referenced in paragraph 2.7.3 and should be documented in the PFSP. Developing a matrix similar to the one shown below may be a useful way of ensuring consistency in determining when a DOS should be initiated by a port facility. 6.4. Actions required by different security levels. This was discussed in Chapter 5.5. Maritime Security, MARSEC, levels were constructed for quick communication from the ship to the State Security Agency for different levels of threats aboard or ashore. The 3 security levels listed below are introduced by the ISPS code. MARSEC Level 1 is the normal level that the ship or port facility operates at on a daily basis. Level 1 ensures that security personnel maintain minimum appropriate security 24/7. MARSEC Level 2 is a heightened level for a time period during a security risk that has become visible to security personnel. Appropriate additional measures will be conducted during this security level. MARSEC Level 3 will include additional security measures for an incident that is forthcoming or has already occurred that must be maintained for a limited time frame. The security measure must be attended to although there might not be a specific target that has yet been identified. Security Level 3 should be applied only when there is reliable information given for that particular security threat that is probable or at hand. Security Level 3 must be set for a timed duration for the identified security incident. although the security levels will change from security level 1 to security level 2 and to security level 3, it is highly possible for the security levels to change drastically from security level 1 to security level 3. 6.5 Security duties of port facility personnel, discussed in Chapter 2. 6.6 Communications, reporting security incidents. PF should maintain a website with indication of current MARSEC level. PFSP should include the emergency phone contact list. Key contact telephone numbers. 1. Facility Security Officer. 2. Contracting Government Maritime Security Department. 3. National Response Center. 4. Security Network Communications numbers. 5. Gate Security. 6. Harbor Master, Port Captain. 7. Local Police. 8. Local Fire Department. 9. Coast Guard. 10. Emergency Medical, Ambulance Service. 11. Local Police. 12. Government Law Enforcement, Intelligence Unit. 13. Bomb Squad, Military Command. 14. Service Vessels, Pilots. 15. Service Vessels, Tugs. 16. Service Vessels, Fuel, Oil Bunkering. 17. Service Vessels, Potable Water. 18. Service Vessels, Waste Transfer, Transport. 19. Others. Reporting security incidents. PFSPs are required to document procedures for reporting security incidents, and PFSOs are required to report them to relevant authorities. Security incidents generally fall into two categories. A. Those considered to be sufficiently serious that they should be reported to relevant national or regional authorities by the PFSO, including unauthorized access to restricted areas within the port facility, unauthorized carriage or discovery of weapons or prohibited items in the port facility, incidents of which the media are aware, bomb warnings, unauthorized disclosure of a PFSP. B. Those of a less serious nature but require reporting to and investigation by the PFSO, including breaches of screening points, inappropriate uses of passes, damage to security equipment through sabotage or vandalism, suspicious behavior in or near the port facility, suspicious packages in or near the port facility, unsecured access points. Experience to date indicates that some national security agencies have A. Specified the types of security incidents that must be immediately reported them, as indicated below. Type of security incident: attack, bomb warnings, hijack, armed robbery against a ship, discovery of firearms, discovery of other weapons, discovery of explosives, unauthorized access to a restricted area, unauthorized access to the port facility, media awareness. With respect to bomb warnings, developed a checklist as a useful aid for anyone receiving a warning, which can be received in various ways with a telephone call to a port authority, port facility operator or individual ship at the port facility being the most common. One such checklist may be accessed at www.pni.gov.uk, docs, bomb_threat_checklist.pdf. Designed standard forms for security incidents that must be reported to them and making them available on their internet sites. One such form, The Maritime Security Incident Report online form developed by the Government's Department of Infrastructure, Transport, Regional Development and Local Government, may be downloaded from www.infrastructure.gov.au, Transport, Security, Maritime, msr_online_form.asps. Although this form has been designed to fulfill incident reporting requirements, prescribed in national legislation, it could be adapted by port facility operators to their particular reporting requirements. In such cases, the form's practical usefulness could be enhanced by ensuring that its format is straightforward, allowing the PFSO to report the remedial action taken, ensuring that any associated reporting procedures are straightforward, establishing the situations when it is to be forwarded to the port facilities manager, locating copies where they can be visible to, and easily accessed by, port facility personnel. 6.7. Security committees, monitoring controls and reviews, inspections and audits, non-conformities and corrective actions. Port security committees. At the port level, the development and implementation of security procedures and measures can be enhanced through the establishments of a Port Security Committee, PSC, comprising representatives from the Port Authority, the port facilities within the port, government organizations operating in the port, local law enforcement agencies, and those employed in the port and port users. Together, those represented on a PSC should have detailed knowledge of the security issues and patterns of criminality experienced at the particular port. Many port operators have established port security committees to coordinate security procedures and measures across their port. Where established, committees have yielded significant security benefits through better coordination of security activities across the port and its port facilities. Membership should be as broad as possible. In addition to the Port Security Officer, PSO, not port state control, if appointed, and the PFSO of each facility in the port. If there are several facilities, it could comprise representatives from their management of the port operator and each port facility operator. Customs and immigration authorities operating at the port. Law enforcement and emergency services. Port worker associations. Associations for seafarers operating ships from the port. Firms undertaking commercial activities at the port, for example storage, cargo handling. Shipping companies operating at the port. Shippers and cargo interests at the port. Designated authority and administration assigned to the port. Municipal and regional governments with jurisdictional interests. Community associations adjacent to the port. Each PSC operating procedure should have a terms of reference which could include identifying security threats, reporting and assessing recent security incidents at the port, assessing the possible implications of security incidents at other ports, enhancing coordination in the application of security procedures and measures, planning, coordinating participation in and evaluating security drills and exercises, coordinating port facility security assessments with the Port Security Assessment, coordinating, communicating and facilitating the implementation of applicable security measures specified in the Port Security Plan, facilitating shore leave by seafarers, sharing best practices and experiences in the implementation of security plans. Designing and evaluating security awareness programs. Experience to date includes the PSC being chaired by the senior manager and the port operator, who has overall responsibility for port security. This is usually a position more senior than the PSO. The PSC appointing a deputy chair, usually the PSO, so as to ensure continuity of meetings. The terms of reference being approved by the port operator and available to all interested parties. The terms of reference specifying the meeting administration responsibilities of the chair and the meeting participation responsibilities of all members, that is to keep their organizations well informed of proceedings and raise their issues. Meetings being held regularly, quarterly is often the minimum frequency. Some PSCs meet weekly, so as to enable the timely handling of security matters, with decisions recorded and distributed to all members. In order for committees to conduct their business efficiently, consideration being given to limiting attendance to a single representative from each member organization. If necessary, smaller subcommittees could be established to address topics requiring multiple participation from organizations. There is a need to balance the desired openness of an advisory or consultative committee with the need to protect the confidentiality of sensitive security information, for example intelligence on possible threats. In such instances, it may be necessary to establish a special subcommittee, restricted to personnel with the necessary security clearances, for example security officers, police services and government officials. Port Facility Security Plan Audit. An audit is an evaluation of a security assessment or security plan, performed by an owner or operator, the owner or operator's designee, or an approved third party, intended to identify deficiencies, non-conformities and inadequacies that would render the assessment or plan insufficient. A port facility is required to conduct an annual audit of its port FSP. The audit must be conducted by personnel who do not have regularly assigned security duties at the port facility, and be independent of any security measures being audited. The port FSO should first determine if there is any organizational staff, or staff in collateral functions and elements not involved in port security, capable of assisting with this audit. If the port facility is part of a government organization, there may be external agencies or resources, for example, a city or county's audit management or staff inspections element, that could be tapped into. There might also be private elements or contractors available on a current government contract that could be requested to assist with the audit. 6.8. Private security services. The most prominent offshore employment of private marine security contractors, PMSC, is the armed protection of vessels against pirates. This kind of armed protection and anti-piracy services at sea are mostly minor operations and do only require the presence of the hired security personnel for short periods of time. 5 to 10 guards are most often enough to protect a ship against pirates, as they normally operate in smaller groups. The PMSCs are increasingly offering their services to safeguard commercial shipping interests. The contemporary private maritime security market offers a wide selection of services, for example, operational and tactical military and maritime security training, security intelligence analysis and risk advisory services and assessments, rapid emergency response, hijack and hostage negotiations. Armed and unarmed operational support. The operational support exits of anti-piracy operations, fisheries protection, Coast Guard duties, logistics support. Note that armed guards are not allowed in some states, for example in Nigeria and Sierra Leone. Armed and unarmed site security, for example at ports, offshore platforms or cruise vessels. The PMSCs are most often hired by the commercial shipping industry, ship owners, insurance companies, private luxury yachts, cruise liners, or port operators. Governments does sometimes also hire PMSCs. Cruise liners and large passenger ferries are often discreetly using the services provided by the PMSCs. Some responses of the PMSCs are problematic as they represent legal, ethical, economic, and political problems. The PMSCs are engaged in providing anti-piracy measures with a transnational and institutionalized nature. The engagement at sea and the focus on protecting vessels against the threat of piracy and armed robbery results in legal challenges. The PMSCs are increasingly sanctioned by their flag states. However, coastal states hesitate to allow PMSCs that engage in potentially violent actions within their territory. IMO has issued multiple guidelines complementing the international security framework and has adopted 3 sets of interim recommendations. 6.10 Documentation records and controls. To assist in response and management of a crisis, basic facility information must be available for quick and effective reference. The PFSO is responsible for ensuring that the information is revised, updated, and secured. The information should consist of at least the following items. 1. A large-scale plan of the facility layout showing restricted areas, access points, lighting detail, and surveillance equipment. 2. A copy of this FSP. 3. The name of the FSO and other key personnel, by assignments and duties. 4. Current, valid, declarations of security. 5. Names of facility personnel and their security responsibilities. 6. A record of all means of communication. This information shall be kept in a secure room, vault or safe box located in the Security Control Center, SCC, or an equally secure area, and references in PFSP. Records and reports. The following is the consolidated list of records required to be held by the PFSO. 1. A copy of the Port Facility Security Assessment. 2. A copy of the Statement of Compliance for the facility, issued by the National Security Authorities. 3. A list of all vessels that have docked at the facility. 4. Gate log entries. 5. Declaration of Security Record, log. 6. Names of facility personnel and their security responsibilities. 7. Dates and specifics of quarterly drills and annual exercises. 8. Security Incident Report, including breaches of security and any security incidents related directly to the facility and incidents involving a ship alongside, or service vessel. 9. Changes in security levels. 10. On-scene surveys and inspections, verifications. 11. Internal audits and reviews of security activities. 12. Reviews of PFSA and PFSP implementation. 13. Security measures in effect and their purpose. 14. Security training, drill, and exercise records, including a roster of employees and contractors in attendance and the dates when conducted. 15. Calibration, testing, and maintenance records for the communications and security equipment. 6.11. Contingency plans, security drills and exercises. Security awareness and training. Security awareness is vital to the safety, security and health of port personnel and others, having a place of work in the port, who should be made aware of their responsibilities to fellow workers, the port community and the environment. Appropriate training of personnel working in the port should maximize personal awareness of suspicious behavior, incidents, events or objects, when going about their daily tasks, and the invaluable contribution to be made to the security of the port and its personnel by each individual. Included should be clear lines for reporting such matters to supervisors, managers or appropriate authorities. Additional or special training may be required for people in particular roles. Training may be focused on particular roles and tasks in the port or at external facilities serving the port, such as security and law enforcement personnel, stevedores and all those handling, storing and transporting or coming into contact with passengers, freight, cargo, material and stores or ships. Other associated roles and tasks, where personnel do not come into direct contact with passengers, freight, cargo, material and stores or ships as a matter of course, but who are in administrative and support roles in the port or at associated facilities. Consideration should also be given to circumstances where it would be ineffective or contrary to good security practice to train or give additional information to those without a direct need to know. Training, drills and exercises on port facility security. The Port Facility Security Officer and appropriate port facility security personnel shall have knowledge and have received training, taking into account the guidance given in Part B of ISPS Code. Port facility personnel, having specific security duties, shall understand their duties and responsibilities for port facility security, as described in the Port Facility Security Plan, and shall have sufficient knowledge and ability to perform their assigned duties, taking into account the guidance given in Part B of ISPS Code. To ensure the effective implementation of the Port Facility Security Plan, drills shall be carried out at appropriate intervals, taking into account the types of operation of the port facility, port facility personnel changes, the type of ship the port facility is serving and other relevant circumstances, taking into account guidance given in Part B of this code. The Port Facility Security Officer shall ensure the effective coordination and implementation of the Port Facility Security Plan by participating in exercises at appropriate intervals, taking into account the guidance given in Part B of ISPS Code. Planning and conducting drills and exercises. To ensure the effective implementation of PFSPs, drills are required to be carried out on each element at a recommended minimum interval of 3 months. These are usually organized by PFSOs, who are responsible for testing the effective implementation of PFSPs. To ensure the effective implementation and coordination of PFSPs, PFSOs are required to participate in exercises at a recommended minimum interval of once each calendar year with no more than 18 months between the exercises. These exercises are usually planned and coordinated by port authorities and conducted on a port-wide basis. They may be full-scale or live, tabletop simulation or seminar, combined with other exercises organized by government agencies or port authorities to test emergency response or commerce resumption plans. Drills and exercises take up organizational time and resources and must therefore be conducted in as efficient and effective a manner as possible. The conduct of drills and exercises may lead to amendments to the approved PFSP. Major amendments to an approved PFSP should be submitted to the designated authority for reapproval. Recommended Security Exercises Plans http://www.sic.oas.org, Rev. N. Documents/APEC_N.ASP. End of course.